Breaking news tonight, the Drukhari will receive a brand new Codex this 10th edition, making them officially the most complicated way to ruin a friendship since Monopoly. Fans celebrated by immediately declaring it broken, overpowered, and unplayable all at once. Meanwhile, at the Nova Open, a man was disqualified for attempting to field a Thunderhawk, made entirely out of lasagna sheets. Sources say it was delicious but lacked sufficient armor saves. And finally, a War Machine player was spotted in the wild last weekend. Authorities are still confirming whether this sighting was real or a hallucination caused by paint fumes. Hobby scandals and releases. Games Workshop dominated headlines this week with several announcements. First, the new Drukhari Codex. Yes, the Dark Elder are back, and they're still pointy, spiky, and deeply committed to violating the Geneva Convention of Fun. Early reviews suggest the book adds 3 new ways to lose friends and at least 1 way to get banned from casual game nights. Second, the made-to-order models are returning, which means you can now buy the exact same miniatures your granddad bought in 1997. Perfect for anyone nostalgic for sculpted hands the size of dinner plates. And in media news, Games Workshop announced another animation project. Early concept art suggests the show will be 20% grimdark, 40% bolter fire, and 40% someone whispering "For the Emperor" in slow motion. Now, the Nova Open just wrapped up, and reports confirm every single army was Space Marines, except for one brave soul who brought orcs. He was immediately declared a folk hero, a legend, and also lost every game. Other game coverage, BattleTech announced new plastics, sending thousands of wallets directly into cardiac arrest. Infinity held a satellite tournament where players spent 90% of their time measuring line of sight through soda cans. And in Star Wars Legion news, a player finally won a game by deploying Jar Jar Binks. Experts call this the darkest timeline. And for our community watch, this week on Reddit, the community argued whether the new Drukhari Codex is broken, despite the fact that no one has actually read it yet. One player declared it unbalanced after glimpsing a blurry photo of page 32. On YouTube, a painting influencer went viral after spending 4 hours shading 1 gemstone. Commenters praised the work, but admitted they'll just paint theirs red and move on. Meanwhile, over in the War Machine Facebook group, 3 players got into a heated debate, and analysts confirm this is 50% of the active player base. And finally, a bold action event, a hobbyist insisted his army couldn't lose because it was historically accurate. His opponent then fielded a Sherman tank with anime-decals and crushed him. Truly historic is written by the victors. Brush tips nobody asked for. Today's brush tips nobody asked for. If you're painting Drukhari, make sure to prick your finger on a spike before starting. It's the only way to properly anoint your models. When painting Tyranids, remember, simply dip them in barbecue sauce and call it contrasts. And if your paint ever dries out, just add tears. Perfectly your opponents works every time. And now for our commercial break. Tired of Games Workshop releasing new Space Marines every week? Try Anti-Marine Spray, trademark incorporated, guaranteed to repel new releases for up to 3 days. This episode is also brought to you by Pile of Shame Insurance, trademark incorporated. If you don't finish your minis, we'll send a professional to your house to shame you publicly. Now that's accountability. And finally, a special ad from the Drukhari Codex, because torture is more fun when it's organized. Events and exposés. Investigators at the Nova Open uncovered shocking news. 90% of players spend more time gossiping about releases than actually playing games. In fact, one tabletop match never began because both players were too busy arguing about the latest Warhammer Plus subscription tier. Elsewhere, in Age of Sigmar, a narrative campaign was cancelled after players couldn't agree on how many skulls were too many. The answer, of course, is never enough. Meanwhile, in BattleTech, organizers tried a new rule where every mech explodes if you roll a double 6. The event ended in 12 minutes, widely considered the best game ever played. And now it's time for a brand new rotating minigame. This week's Outrage in 1 sentence. The challenge, summarizing an entire week of hobby drama in 1 sentence. So here we go. The Drukhari Codex is both the most broken and the most useless release in history, and anyone who disagrees clearly doesn't understand the lore. There you have it, thousands of Reddit comments condensed into one perfect sentence. Closing predictions. And now, predictions for the next week in the hobby. Games Workshop will reveal a new model line, Space Marines, but with slightly shinier kneecaps. Pre-orders will sell out in 12 seconds. BattleTech will announce a new Kickstarter that raises $2 million before anyone realizes they don't have space for more mechs. And finally, in the miniature painting world, one brave soul will actually finish his pile of shame, only to immediately start a new one. Please subscribe to the show to get your weekly fix and leave a review. This has been C7 Miniature Misinformer Podcast, reporting the tabletop wargaming news you didn't know you needed because it isn't real.